Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. This episode is brought to you by L1 Automotive Training and Keith Perkins. If you're looking for education on module programming, J2534, EEPROM work, key and immobilizer, electrical diagnostics, or drivability diagnostics, Keith has a website, l1training.com, that's got over 60 hours of training videos on all those subjects and more. When I first started out doing mobile, I utilized Keith's videos on module programming in J2534 in order to get my head wrapped around what I would need for the tooling, the computers, the software setups, what kind of obstacles I would be up against when I'm out there programming modules on cars. And it was a huge benefit to me. And I continue to use the training videos that he has on his website. So I strongly recommend checking out l1training.com. The link is in the show notes. Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping. I'll be your host once again for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on the show, Matt Fanslow is joining us once again. Always great to hear from Matt. Make sure to check out his podcast, Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z. If you haven't, all kinds of great content on that show. But today, we're going to talk about a number of things because we always manage to derail the conversation. We started out talking about Matt talks about his dad and the health challenges he's been going through recently, and then we got into just health and well-being and diet overall, and things you can do to improve yourself in that aspect. But the main focus of the show today is based off of a TV show that Matt actually did an episode about on his podcast, and he had recommended to me that I ended up watching. Actually just recently finished the series. It's called The Bear. It's on Hulu. It's with the guy from Shameless is the main character. But anyways, we're going to discuss about the show and the character development and the character evolution. You see in the show a number of characters that start out maybe a real negative viewpoint of their career and the world and the people around them. And through the series, several different characters are inspired to improve their situation and improve themselves. And it's really cool. I definitely recommend the series. It's a great series. I don't watch a ton of TV anymore, but this was definitely enjoyable. But what we're going to discuss is in our world, in our careers, in the automotive world, and for technicians, what kinds of things inspire you to do better? Because I think there's a lot of parallels between the career position and the difference in the restaurant world, right? The bottom of the barrel to the top of the top. What's going to inspire you to make the transformation from one to another, or for your shop or the people around you? And that's what we really get into in this one. So it's a great conversation, and I think a really good thing to think about as well is like, why would I want to improve my situation and my skill set and things about me related to my career? What's the value in that, and what actually makes me want to do that? Or also, what could you be doing to inspire that in others? So that's what we're going to talk about. Always great to hear from Matt. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the episode. Cool. Well, what's happening, Matt? How you doing this evening?
Excellent. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, a couple better days to start out the week.
Get the
I don't
snow
know.
tires off the vans, or did you ever get snow tires on the vans? Was there
No,
any reason to?
no reason. Maybe some dustings here and there, but I bought a brand new snowblower this year.
It's your
I
fault.
fixed up. Yeah, no, well, that's what I was saying. It's like I will go buy a brand new snowblower every year if I
Yeah.
can have this kind of mild winter, and I'll just have rows of these untouched snowblowers. I don't even know how to start the thing because I bought it in October. I fixed up an old car. It's in my driveway. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get myself a nice snowblower because I've always had just
Junk.
crappy
Yeah.
hand-me-down ones that I fixed. And, put a carburetor on this, right? And I was like, no, I'm getting myself a real nice one with the heated handles and all that stuff. And I've had no reason to fire it up. So yeah,
See,
that's how that works.
I want. So my you've seen my driveway. It's not like a monster, but I suppose a little bit wider than most in town uh, driveways with 2-car garages. Mine has a little extra width for just outdoor flat parking. And I always thought it'd be hilarious to just own either a tractor with maybe twin scroll or like a bobcat skid loader just for my driveway. Just
Sure, sure.
I just thought it would. I just think that would be hilarious. Like I could just laugh the whole time I'm doing it.
Get out there, make 2 passes, and then bring it
Yeah,
back in the
done.
garage.
I gotta go. I gotta go plow the driveway. Let me call you back. And then I call you back like 5 minutes later. Like, oh, you must not have had much snow, eh? No, it's like 2 feet deep, man. We got dumped on. What did you
Yeah.
plow with? Got like a 200 horsepower Massey with a 8-foot wide Farm King twin scroll. I can shoot
Oh,
across my neighbor's yard into their neighbor's yard.
I had a slight ambition when I was younger to buy a plow truck and make money that way, and I don't know. I'm kind of glad I never did, but
Oh, especially this year. Oof.
yeah, that's the thing. If you get all set up for it and you count on that as your income, boy, it's been a rough year for you,
Yeah.
or anybody that bought a snowblower. But um, me and the girlfriend actually been learning how to snowboard at a ski
On
place up
grass.
here.
Oh,
Well, so that's actually the impressive thing is how much snow that they are able to generate with the machines they have there. I've never really thought about it too much because it's winter, there's usually snow, and yeah, they'll open early, but this year like everything on the hills is man-made, and it's actually really impressive how much they make and are able to maintain to. A super cold last week, but um yeah, we've been up there the last 3 weeks doing lessons, and it's really fun. I used to ski when I was a kid, and I never did the snowboarding thing, so this is only like my 3rd time ever. But man, the falling, which happens a lot when you're learning snowboarding, that is way more difficult when you're an adult. Like I've
I
got
bet.
bruised up tailbone, bruised up knees, and it's like, oh man. But it is fun. I was starting to get the hang of it last Saturday. Like I could make it down the hill and not completely wipe out every single time. So
Is
making
it
progress.
easier or harder or more difficult, or is it just different? Like I could see how if you grew up on skis, you're independent. Your legs,
Yeah,
you can kind of go wide or narrow and move around.
that's the biggest thing is, yeah, your feet are together, and I think it's much more difficult. Now, I don't know if you took a kid and you just started them with it, maybe it's the same, but I think it would be much easier to learn how to ski because you just got to remember pizza, French fry, that's it, and you can always slow down with the pizza.
Yeah,
And you're not gonna fall over and hit your face on the snow. Whereas when you're doing the snowboard, like you have to learn your edges. It's
yeah.
heel toe, and man, I've caught my toe edge so many times trying to figure
Flipped
that out.
over.
Yeah, face plant or on my back or whatever. But it's a good time and it's fun to learn something new. So we're enjoying it.
Nice.
What have you been up to? How's your dad doing?
I mean, it's too early to tell. I mean, he's at home now, so the reality is remarkably well, considering what happened. Which, if not that it's like big news, Matt's dad, but just to know what we're talking about. My dad is a 77-year-old farmer who was fairly active, and one night out of the blue, at night sleeping, his heart stopped beating. So sudden cardiac arrest, I think, would be the, I guess, diagnosis, if you will, or the term they would use, and just the most insane sequence of events. My mom woke up to him snoring really loud, which is, it's kind of one of them things, if you read into it, that's a common thing amongst people when their heart stops. They just loud snoring. And so she's trying to wake him up to quit snoring, to roll over, and he didn't respond. And then the other thing is, my brother just so happened to arrive that night from Chicago for, to hang out up here to visit over Christmas. So he's there and responded quickly with chest compressions, CPR. Those two things don't happen, and we're talking about my dad's funeral.
Wow.
And so all Christmas spent down in so we live in, obviously, Minnesota, and there's a city called Rochester, which is kind of the home of Mayo Clinic, which is, I think, a nationally recognized medical, almost like a franchise corporation, but up there with like John Hopkins. And so he spent all of Christmas down there, through the new year. And then, the crazy thing is, like, he's missing benchmarks when they want the benchmarks to occur, but eventually he hits them and then surpasses them. And then the surprising thing is, the assumption was that the reason his heart stopped was most likely a heart attack, but because his EKG was clean for something they call ischemia, they weren't rushing to do the angiogram. They were going to wait until he was stable and showing signs of recovery, like mentally.
Okay.
Most people that suffer cardiac arrest don't die of heart problems after the fact. They die of traumatic brain injuries. And so that was kind of wait and see, like, how long did his brain go without oxygen and blood? And he was not hitting the benchmarks as fast as they wanted, but he was hitting them and then surpassing them. And then they go in for the angiogram and it comes back clean. So their number one, suspicion of cause proves not to be the case.
And that's looking for blockages, or?
Yeah. Okay. And so that comes back clean. They go with plan B, which is, and this is not a dig. I'm not taking a dig at the medical community. It's what it is. We don't know what it is. The next most likely cause is electrical, if you will. So we put in a defibrillator, and factoring in his age, he's right at the average life expectancy of an American male, but he's active, in general good health, stuff like that. So they put in a defibrillator, basically a personal defibrillator, ICD, and sent him to a assisted living or nursing home, if you will, for a few weeks to heal up from the surgery more than anything.
Okay.
And then last Friday he went home. And I'm not going to say he's back in action, but hanging around with him, it's dad. You know what I mean? Personality.
Mm-hmm.
And we've played cards like cribbage and euchre, and he's really not skipped a beat.
Okay.
If you will.
That's good to
So
hear.
it's like, yeah. So I no matter what, where he is right now is a freaking miracle, and he might get better yet. So I know that was
That's
maybe a
awesome.
long-winded response to he's doing really good. Thanks for asking. But
No, that's I'm glad to hear that. My mom had a weird thing. It was about a year and a half ago. She was at church and she sings at church and she's been doing that for gosh 30, 40 years, and she'll go up front and she's going to go do it like she always does. She walks up to the front where the mic is about to sing, and she just like stares there like blank stare, like what am I doing here?
oh no, yeah,
And she had no idea where she was, how she got there, what she was doing, and luckily in a place where everybody is going to care about her and help her and
yeah.
take care of her, and they got the ambulance there right away. But she lost like 48 hours of her life as far as memory went, and during that time couldn't make any new short-term memories. Like it was just like a loop. Just like she'd immediately be like, where am I, what am I doing here, why am I in the hospital, we got her home, why are you all here, what's happening, it just loop. And then after about 40, they did a bunch of tests, and because they thought it was a stroke.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Right.
what I was thinking. Yeah.
And that's what everybody else was thinking. Nothing, no issues with blood flow to the brain or anything wrong with the brain that they could find in general, and did a ton of testing and went through everything, and they ended up coming up with she eventually just kind of got better and was fine. Like a couple days later she started to get everything back, a little foggy or whatever, but after a week or two she was 100% completely normal, and nothing has happened since. It's a year and a half, and they said what do they call it? It's like global transient amnesia. I might be butchering that, but it's something along those lines, and it happens to people. It's a documented thing, but it usually happens once, sometimes twice, but that's it in a person's lifetime, and it just that's it. Like you have a your brain freezes up and then you go back to normal and it's fine. And but it's so scary during that time because we don't know what happened, and we don't know, is she going to be okay. My grandma had a stroke and she was never the same after that.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was it took a lot of her brain function away. So that stuff it's really scary, but it is so awesome when you see them, they're back to themselves, they're healthy, they're doing well, they're improving. That's a really good feeling. And like you say, especially when your parents are up there. I mean, my mom's, pretty close to 70, and you don't know how much time you're going to have with them. So it is a really good feeling where you're like, okay, they're still with us for a little while. So that's good.
Yeah, and I'm maybe it has to do with our age. I don't know. Not that I would consider you so old, and some people would probably slap my hand if I insinuated I was so old. But you get in your head like 100 is a good, like that's really really good. 90,
Mm-hmm.
90 is a
Yeah.
pretty good run.
Right.
So
Right.
77, or your mom if she's 68, 69, 70, it's like, man, we should get 10, 15, 20 more years. But it's like, no, they're right kind of at that median area. Like,
Yep.
that sucks to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But it's just one of those reminders of like making all the time you can with them count the most that you can. And, we've been making more of an effort as a family to get together more often and not let the other things in life get in the way of that. So,
Yeah, and not to go like, all Sheldon or anything, but just part of the reason the number is low is overdoses and suicide type stuff that are young people that kind of tank the numbers a little bit. So
sure.
yeah, but still, man, even if it's 80, that's 3 more years.
Yeah, I had heard something
And
like that of like if you go way back, 200-300 years, the life expectancy rate was so low because of the infant mortality rate.
Yep, exactly.
That would drag down the average number, which is pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, both my grandparents made it to, I want to say, well, my mom's side, they were both in their 90s, and then my dad's mom was also, I think, 93 when she passed. His dad died in a car accident, so there's not much of a a reference there, obviously, but everybody else made it to their 90s. So here's hoping.
Well, yeah, and you're stacking odds in your favor, so that's all you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yep, trying to be as healthy as I can, and my parents are doing that too, going to the gym and stuff like that. But
Nice.
I'm doing this hard 75 thing. Me and the girlfriend started that on the second of the year. We didn't start until January 2nd, but we've been doing that, and that's it's 75 days of following 5 or 6 different things and trying to hit them every day for those 75 days and not screwing up. And it's a mental challenge. Like, you got to do some workouts every day, which is a physical challenge, and there's a diet, and read 10 pages of a book and drink a gallon of water and a couple other things, but it's a mental challenge for sure. But I've been enjoying it, and anyways, if you're healthy, like drinking water and reading a book and eating healthy and exercising and going outside. So it's not like it's anything bad, but it's been good to kind of refocus on that stuff.
For the most part, no BS, like on the level. For the most part, I do all of those except exercise.
Okay.
And that's what I probably really need to get my butt in gear. So gears are moving to clear out some space to make room for, most likely, I'm thinking, a treadmill.
Okay.
And the reason is that, right or wrong, I'm kind of buying into VO2 and VO2 max.
Okay.
And one of the better ways, especially at my age, and anybody, honestly, outside of their 20s and 30s, instead of going out and just start running or jogging, which high impact, the treadmill can allow you to do rucking.
Oh, okay.
And
where you're
so
carrying
now,
something.
Yeah, so like the treadmill, the idea, and you could do this with a bike, I'm sure, is you're going to start out slow and even and relatively flat. 3 miles an hour, flat, and 15-20 minutes a day for 5-6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then, without increasing speed, you're going to start increasing the incline. And so that, as high as that thing will go, which most treadmills, without getting into like the really, really high end ones, I think they max out at like 15 degrees or something like that, which is,
Sure.
significant. It's not nothing.
Yeah.
But that's pretty good. So now it's, roughly 3 miles an hour, walking up a fairly steep incline for 20 minutes a day, 5-6 days a week. And then as you can start doing that while maintaining a conversation. It might not be all that comfortable, but you could talk to somebody throughout that workout.
Mm-hmm.
You start adding weight. So you get a backpack and you start out with maybe 5 pounds. And then you work your way up to like a third of your weight. So for some people, that could be a significant amount of weight. Even if you're, even if you're $180, right?
Sure.
That's 60 pounds.
Yeah, that's a lot to walk up a hill with.
Right.
That's military inspired, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
We definitely hear about it rucking in the military.
Sure.
Part of marching, and you got your rucksack, and it's a good way, relatively low impact, especially on a treadmill that's got some give. But again, you could crank up the intensity on like a bike. Probably a rowing machine, but the idea is that you're exerting yourself cardiovascularly enough that it's you can maintain a conversation, so you're not like high intensity,
Okay.
but it's you can maintain a conversation with effort. You'd rather not be talking, but you could. And then that leads to a really, really good workout for your cardiovascular health, and increases your VO2 max, which is supposed to be one of the better indicators of all-cause death.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean,
So
yeah, you hear about so many people, that end up with heart disease or cardiovascular disease in one way or another. So, yeah, anything you can do to get that heart rate up and the blood pumping is so good for you.
yeah, it's almost an annoying conversation, right? You and I have had these conversations about human diet and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, these schools of thought and different data coming out, and then the data gets tweaked and skewed to favor whatever they're after.
Sure.
And
There's always something new and flashy and trendy that is the answer that's, never been here before, but now we figured it out, sort of thing. And
you got a cardiovascular surgeon who's making a pile of money selling supplements and books telling you to avoid lectins. And yet there's like decades and decades and decades of study after study showing that diets high in lectins, or not high in lectins because lectins in themselves are bad, but foods that would contain lectins that after cooking don't really have lectins in them anymore are the diets that people live the longest on. So like the Mediterranean diets, the Blue Zone diets, and stuff like that. But anyways, it's probably not the way you're expecting this to go.
No, it's all good. I'm all into that stuff too. Is it, the lectin thing, is that plants? Is that what that's from?
The Plant Paradox is the one book, and it's mainly plants, beans, so legumes. And a lot of plants have lectins or other chemicals that are released to protect themselves from
being eaten.
Yeah. I'm not positive it quite works that way. And then even if it does, there's the argument of that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So now getting some of that stuff attacking your body, forcing you to respond, could be considered good. But it just, as a whole, for the most part, those diets that are heavy and plant-based, and I'm not saying like vegan or vegetarian. I'm just saying plants make up the majority of the plate, if you will. Meat is still very much a part of a lot of these diets that are very healthy. But instead of making up the like American diet where meat makes up half the plate or 3/4 of the plate, it's 1/4 of the plate. And then you have plants and then like whole grains. And that's almost textbook Mediterranean, but a lot of the others are pretty close to that, slight variations of it. And then, of course, you have very specific areas where they have very narrow, I would say, diets due to just where they are located. And I mean, if you live there and that's all you're going to eat, then I think that probably can work out for you. But
well, it's like any of the diets that are like way all the way one direction, right? Because you have the carnivore, all meat. This is the only way to go, and the plants are chemicals trying to kill you, and then the opposite, like full on vegan of, here's all the reasons why meat is bad for your heart and cholesterol and all that stuff, where it's neither one of them I think are right, and not right for everybody, right? That's the thing. It's like everybody's a little different. Everybody has different bodies and needs and lifestyles and all that stuff, and there's probably somewhere in the middle for most people, but you can't say that one diet's going to be the answer for everybody. And I think we're meant to eat a wide variety of foods.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you're going to say like one diet, it's going to be the ones that are just not a lot of hardcore rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know I've mentioned it again, but the Mediterranean diet is pretty wide,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, it's not super restrictive. Of course, minimal refined sugar,
Mm-hmm.
minimal alcohol, minimal, okay, the things everyone knows are
Yeah,
in
yeah,
it are
exactly.
bad. Like,
Yep.
so, but the like the ketogenic diet was super popular for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some cases it could be extremely effective in helping people lose a lot of weight really fast.
Yep.
But it's insustainable.
Right.
And it turns out there's studies now coming out where people on ketogenic diets are becoming insulin resistant, which is super counterintuitive. It's
Right.
super counterintuitive. And yet that's what's happening. And you have these gurus, if you will, and I don't mean that even just condescending, like people that you have YouTube channels where it seems like to do their due diligence and they were doing certain diets. So I think there's for sure that Peter Attia, and then there's is it Thomas Lauer or whatever? They're big on ketogenic diets. Well, they've abandoned them because they've had to, because the data is not coming back supporting it doing what they thought it did. And now they're doing a little more blue zone-ish, a little more Mediterranean-ish type diets that maybe have a little bit more protein than a textbook Mediterranean. But
Okay.
that's what they're kind of doing. And I don't know. I just find that really interesting. And some of the guys that were super anti-LDLs, the data's coming back, and some of them have put themselves on low-dose statins.
Wow.
So it's crazy how this stuff
Wow.
is evolving, and it's
yeah.
And here we are. I don't know squat. I'm just trying to do right, and it's like some days it's like I can't win.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, but that's the goal. Is like you want to find a diet that doesn't feel like a diet, that is easier to maintain, and that you can build into your lifestyle, and you're not unsatisfied or hungry all the time, or man, I wish I could have that food. Like, how can you work it in? And the biggest things, like, we help people out with at the gym here and there with nutrition stuff, and it's, cut out as much processed food as you can. You don't have to all of it, but take out of as much of that as you can. So box, package, wrapper, more than 5 ingredients. Okay, cut that stuff out as much as you can, and try not to drink your calories. So that would be pop and alcohol and things like that. And you can kind of just go with that. And we do suggest getting a lot of protein, and that's especially if you're doing strength training and stuff like that. But otherwise, you can kind of just let your body do its thing for the most part, for most people. Again, not everybody. And you're going to see some pretty significant results if you haven't been doing that. And it's maintainable. Like, okay, what do I want to have for dinner tonight? Okay, I have lots of options. Just stay on the outside of the grocery store, and you can pretty much get whatever you want and have a variety of foods and enjoy your meals and be satisfied too. Like, you don't have to be hungry. And I definitely like to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of keywords in there. One was, I think, satiated. Did I say that right? I think I said it right. Or sated? No, satiated.
Yes, satiated. Yeah.
Yeah. When I grew up, you cleaned your plate. You did not leave the kitchen table until your plate was cleaned. And now it's how many years later, how many decades later, and I struggle to leave food on a plate. Like, and if I'm not thinking, like, it's not if I'm not conscious of it, I will finish a plate, even if I'm full. So, and full, even that. So I think that was the word that triggered this. Was we don't have to eat till we're full. Eat until you're satiated, which is difficult, right? You almost have to be conscious of what you're eating and how much you're eating, and
Yep.
slow down. I think try to learn how to savor your meal. So, okay, you're not going to get the 12-ounce steak anymore. You're going to get the 6 or 8 ounce, and probably 6, right? But take your time and enjoy that 6 ounces, and then enjoy the whatever else you're eating with it, salad or steamed veggies or grilled veggies, whatever. Don't matter. But try to savor it instead of like, oh my God, this is so good. And then you just kind of get into that shoveling it. And if you're eating in front of a TV, it's that much
it's all
worse.
Over. Yep.
Even if you're engaged in a really good conversation amongst friends, you could end up also overeating. You got to almost like set, this is how much food is really what I should be taking in. And the rest can go over here, and then eat that and try to take your time. And then the hard part, the stuff I like can rattle off to you, but have a difficult time enforcing on myself regularly is, what however much this amount of food is. We'll just say it's like the size of my fist or your hands cupped in a bowl. That much food should be enough. And then I eat that I should wait 20 minutes before I eat anything else. After 20 minutes, if I'm really hungry, like, oh God, I really like to eat something, then fine, have a little bit more. But usually what happens after 20 minutes, you're not that hungry.
Sure.
Or you get busy and you forget about it.
Yeah.
And that's that can be a massive amount of, or a massive drop of calories. And then another thing, like you're saying, for advice is sleep. Make sure you get sleep. Kind of figure out what you need. Most people, it's kind of like 8 hours, but some people are better around 7. Some need more, 9. There's a few people out there. I don't know if they're lucky or cursed. I'm not sure. They can get by with like 5-6 hours. Like that's all they need. And I think if they were to track their sleep patterns, they fall asleep fast and they sleep hard.
That's usually me.
That's you?
My head hits the pillow and I'm out until the morning.
I am the opposite. And then I think something that gets forgot about is socialize. Have friends, have fun, laugh. However that is. If you can meet friends to hang out, or your significant other, enjoy each other's company, that has a terrific effect on your general health, mental health specifically. And if you're mentally healthy, usually your physical health kind of follows along, right? It's not a
Yep. Yeah, that sleep's a huge one, and that's something I've been working on, because I like a lot of people just didn't get that much sleep, especially in my like 20s, because you can get by and you can be all right 5 hours, you're fine. Like I can manage, I can do everything, I'm good. But then the older you get, you really start to feel the effects of it. And I don't think it's that I was fine with the 5 hours of sleep. Like I was just doing everything in spite of being sleep deprived for so many years, and actually getting, and I'm still not great about it. There's some nights where you just don't get enough sleep, but really trying to get to bed so that I get enough sleep. It's such a big difference for so many things with your health, whether it be mental or physical or just all of it. Like you need that recovery time, and it makes such a big difference in so many different systems of your body. Stuff like you don't even like really conceive that well, like hormones and things like that. It's gonna screw so many things up if you're not getting sleep. And I really do feel for people who have tough time sleeping. My girlfriend is, I wouldn't say upset with me, but almost to the point of like annoyance, because I'm just like, I'm out. And that's it. Like nothing's waking me up. That's just always the way I've been. But yeah, it's if you have a tough time getting and staying to sleep, that's rough. I think exercise plays a role in that too. I honestly do. if you're not exercising on a regular basis, I don't think your sleep quality is going to be good as if you were. But no, I'm definitely not a doctor. I should probably say
No,
that.
but I think that's safe. I think that's safe to say. I think that would be very easily backed up with data. I just think so. As somebody who does not exercise regularly, who may score 10 to 12,000 steps a day, but not necessarily on purpose or with like health intent. You know what I mean? I'm not walking 10,000 steps
to get the steps.
Yeah. It's through the course of the day, and I'm sure there's quite a few of them that are just like get ups. Kneel down, stand up, kneel down, stand up, around a car that trip the a step or two or whatever that adds over the course of a day of what we do. It adds up. But
yeah, there's some people with those trackers. I don't wear one, but I know people are like, yeah, I got like 40,000 steps today. I'm like, what are you just like shaking your hand all day long? Like, how did you get 40,000? I got it on my ankle.
My leg shake a lot. So 40,000 is kind of a slow day. Yeah, I mean, as somebody that does not exercise like they should, with purpose, I think the data is overwhelming that, again, back to like all-cause mortality, people who exercise die from less things than people that don't. And even people that you would look at and say, they're not in very good shape. But if they're at the gym or have, working out, 5-6 days a week. And the reason I keep saying that is I'm pretty sure like the recommended amount of cardio, which can involve weightlifting. So I'm not trying to ignore weightlifting, because it's anything that gets your heart pumping and requires you to consume oxygen, if you know what I mean, like breathe hard. That can very much be a weightlifting regimen. But I think they want you in that range that where it's you can carry on a conversation, but it's kind of difficult. They want you in that effort level. I think it's like 180 minutes a week. So that works out to be, or maybe not 180, maybe it's 150. It works out to be like 5-6 days, 20-30 minutes a day.
Sure. Yeah.
And that
we do three 45-minute sessions. That's what we recommend to people at the gym, and you can throw another one in here or there, but for real intense exercise, and if you really put some effort in there, that's all you need. Like, come hit it hard for 45 minutes 3 times a week and you're done.
And you can work your way up to that. Like, you don't have to just show up day one and they're just, because at some point you're doing more damage to yourself than good. If you're just trying to go for it, you might be better off working your way into it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you want to build up to really having a super intense workout, definitely, and everybody is at a different point. But then that's the thing too, is for the other side of things, there's people who don't exercise much or just getting into it. If you're really into it, you can do it too much and it starts to have the reverse effects. The recovery time is almost just as important as the exercise itself and taking your time. So I've been very guilty of that in the past too, of like, oh, I'll do like 4 or 5 days at the gym this week and I'll be that much more ahead. And then all of a sudden I hurt my shoulder and I hurt my knee, and it's like, oh, okay, this didn't help. My muscles are like, what are you doing? You got to give us a break.
But to finish the thought, you can look at somebody and say they don't look like they're in that good of shape, but they're hitting the gym. And sure, you might be thinking like, there's no way they go to the gym 5-6 days a week and work out hard and look like that. But if they're not eating the greatest, or they just eat a lot, you can eat way more than what you can work off. Yeah. It's so easy. Calories are really easy to take in. They're compared to somebody else of even less, we'll just say size, like weight, body fat percentage. that the person who doesn't work out has a higher rate of all-cause mortality than the person working out.
Sure.
So I don't know. It's good. It's good for you physically. It's good for you mentally. And I'm a shit talker because I don't do it. So yet.
Well, you know what? This is a good point to transition to. Now we're 40 minutes in. What we wanted to talk about. This is perfect. So, you had recommended a show, and actually you had an episode on it on your podcast with Carm. And I don't watch a whole lot of TV these days. I don't have a ton of time. I don't even have any streaming services. We were using my girlfriend's Hulu, but I just like newer TV to me. I just kind of got let down a lot with a lot of stuff. I'm just like, it's not worth my time, and so I don't watch much. But anyways, we were looking for a show to watch. You recommend this, so like let's try it. It's called The Bear. It's on Hulu. It's with the dude. I don't even know his name. Maybe you do. From Shameless. He was one of the characters, and yeah. And it's about a restaurant in Chicago, and really, really good show. I'm about 1.5 seasons through. Do they only have the 2 seasons out right now?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay. And I'm about 1.5 in, and excellent show. So definitely recommend it to anybody. But one of the things that me and you were talking about was the character development in the show, and a couple of the characters and how they've evolved and progressed. It's really cool. It's kind of a feel good thing in that aspect, but it's also it really makes you think about yourself and other people in your life too, of like how people progress and why and when and what they do for themselves when they want to do better. Like what inspires them to do better? What sort of things actually make you want to change your situation? And I thought it would be interesting to talk about because it definitely has parallels to everybody in this industry, and I mean outside of the industry too, but within the automotive world and within your career, what is going to inspire you to make yourself better? So I don't know where you want to take it from there. I mean, we can describe a little bit more about the show and the characters if you want, but I think it's a good topic to touch on.
Yeah, if we elaborate a little bit on the show, I think the only thing to say is the restaurant starts out as kind of a Chicago sandwich shop, right? I think it was even called The Beef. If I remember right, the name of the restaurant was The Beef, and you could go in and get a, whatever, Philly cheesesteak style sandwich. And that was the extent. And evidently they did some pasta. And the owner passes away from suicide and leaves it to his brother, who just so happens to be a fine dining chef who worked for I think, multi Michelin star restaurant. So he's left with this restaurant, and that's the guy who played Lip on Shameless, his character. And so he's bringing this fine dining background to a sandwich shop. And not to go into like big details, but the people that worked there were just doing the bare minimum. Like it was a job. They very much enjoyed the owner who took himself out. Very much enjoyed his company, but they weren't getting a lot of fulfillment from the job. It was a job that they could do the bare minimum, enjoyed, loved the owner and all that, but that's really where it started and ended. Yeah. Now the brother comes in and he's got new standards, new way of doing things, and there's almost an immediate rejection to all of that. And yet, you had a few others who were intrigued, namely like the pastry chef. If I could remember his name would be great.
Marcus.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Marcus. He does a little bit of research and now he knows who this guy is. Like, oh, you're well-known chef. Oh. and he starts to become inspired. Like, he starts to read more about baking, and he's baking bread, and the main character, or the new owner, suggests putting in a tray of water so that the bread doesn't get so dry. And he kind of scoffs at him, but he does it, and it worked. And so, anyways, his character arc is, I mean, I don't want to give anything away. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to give a whole lot away. And then, Sean, you're halfway through the second season, so you think it's good now? Just wait. It's getting better. It's insane. It's so insane. But I guess where I'm going with that is that almost everybody ends up inspired to do better. Partly because they see what he is, what he does, how he does it, the effects of it, him giving them more trust and more capability, more responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them keep rejecting until he so there's kind of, again, I don't want to be giving stuff away, but something happens to the restaurant where they're shut down, and he makes arrangements for some of them to go to new environments or learning opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes. The character evolution is just, it's just so good.
Yeah.
So that's really all I would add to that is the ability for people to be inspired. And maybe we're not necessarily inspired at the shop we work in. Maybe there is a tech that could inspire us, or an owner or a manager, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's not the case. Maybe I'm not so much inspired by anyone in my shop. Maybe it's the shop down the street. Maybe it's somebody in a group online, one of these Facebook groups. Maybe it's a podcaster named Sean Tipping, and I'm listening to these cars he conquers, or even the ones that kind of kick his tail a little bit, that make me feel better about when I get my tail kicked, but also learning from, what you do, or learning from what he does, if we want to keep talking like third person. If learning from their triumphs and mistakes and failures, learning and being inspired to be like, wow, there's this other way of going about either a specific task of, in our world, it's mostly diagnosis and programming and immobilizer type stuff and module repair or cloning, stuff like that. But it could be anything. It could be anything in a group, a tech who can, yank a transmission out of some Land Rover that we'd all run away from. They can whip them out in half the time, and they explain how they do it and how they figured it out. And maybe you don't get a Land Rover in like that, but you get something else in, and you're looking at it with new eyes, and it's like, oh, I know how to do this, and I could cut a lot of time out of this. And legitimately, like, we're not shade treeing, hacking this.
Doing something really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. I am constantly inspired by people I meet, or reading posts on, Facebook groups, Diagnostic Network, podcasts, how many different podcasts I listen to, and either whether it has to do with automotive or not, like, just, God, I'm constantly inspired. And by people I'm friends with, listening to what they're doing, or they'll call me up and tell me about some car, and it's just like, oh man, I got to step up my game,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
Tell me about it. It's people I know that are doing so many really cool, amazing things. I'm just like, oh man, I need to, I need to step it up in that area. I am way behind. They're light years ahead of something I thought I was proficient at. And yeah, it inspires you to make yourself better, put the effort in. Um, One of the things about the show that and I think it relates to, I mean, really probably anything you do as a career, but us in the automotive field is like where they started at the restaurant at the beginning of the series and where it evolves to. And the other places, like you said, that he kind of sends some of the characters to places outside to work with people and to learn some things. And at the end of the day, they're just making food, right?
yep.
Like the beef sandwich at the shitty shop, the greasy, gross, everybody's pissed off shop, like they're making food. But then, the complete opposite of the 3-star Michelin restaurant, they're just making food, but the difference behind how much care and effort's going into it and what the intent is for it, just worlds apart.
Yep.
And it really starts to change how they feel about what they're doing, right? Yeah, we're still just making food or we're just fixing cars, right?
Yep.
You can be in just a really shitty shop with everybody's pissed off and angry and you're tripping over stuff and the lights don't work and everything's greasy. Like I go into those shops. I know they're out there and hey, they're just fixing cars, right? The car didn't run, now it runs. And that's all any shop is doing necessarily, but you have the complete opposite, like your shop or Keith Perkins' shop or Seth Thorson or something. Like that's the total opposite end of the spectrum, but so many like different things are motivating the people in those shops to do what they do. I mean, right, we want to get paid. That's a big motivator, obviously, but I think through the show that you see, like, there's so much more than that to inspire somebody to like, I need to step up my game. I need to improve myself. Um, and that's where all of the, I don't know, the good feelings about the character development happens because you watch them witness it through other people. Like, wow, that's that's something I could be doing, or that's really cool what he just did or what we just did. I want to do more of that. How do I do more of that? And then going out and improving yourself and putting that effort into, I want to get up a little bit earlier. I want to study this thing. I want to, present myself more professional. It's pretty cool. And I was like, that's, I'd like to see as many people like that in our industry just start to feel that way about themselves and about what they're doing. And yeah, I guess I don't know exactly how to do that. And it's short of just trying to, like you say, trying to inspire as many people as you can around you. I mean,
Hey, have you ever been faced with the challenge of sourcing, installing, and programming a used control module in a vehicle? I know a lot of us have. It seems to be happening more and more often today with the volume of control modules on vehicles, the cost of some new ones, or even the availability of new control modules. In some cases, used may be the only option. So what do you do here? I strongly recommend checking out SJ Auto Solutions and Tommy Oliva. Tommy offers a cloning service for used control modules to make these things plug and play for the vehicle that you're working on. In a lot of cases, he is also able to source the control modules if you're unable to locate one for the vehicle that you're working on. But once you get connected with Tommy, he's going to offer fantastic support from start to finish to make sure that that control module is going to work in your application. He's also got tech support that he offers through his website, along with some free resources there as well on information about used control module programming. So make sure to check out SJ Auto Solutions. I can't recommend that enough.
around you. I mean, what would you think there? What's something the average person can do? I mean, not only to do it for themselves, but to try to turn the ship in a shop or a workplace, if you will.
I mean, the first thing, it's going to sound so corny, but it's true. First thing and the best thing you can control is yourself. So your attitude. And I'm not even saying that with some underlying goal or mission agenda. It's just that's the number one thing you can do is show up to work with a different attitude. Like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to turn out the best work I can at the highest rate I can, and I'm going to try to go to whoever, management, owner, and just say, like, I really want this place to be better. And you might want it to be better for selfish means. I do that. I've done that. I have gone to the boss with ideas, and I want the shop to do better. I want the business to do better. I want you to do better. If I'm working for Sean, I'll be in his office or on the phone saying, Sean, I want you to do better. I want you to make more money. Because I expect if that happens, I will make more money, or I will have better benefits or a better work environment. If I'm working for Sean, maybe it's more equipment, maybe a little more leash to do other things a little outside of the regular diagnostics and programming. Maybe he'd let me start doing cloning or circuit board repairs or immobilizer stuff. I don't know. As an example. And if I can make the company more money, and maybe it's not just me, myself, but this idea that I learned listening to a podcast, that I learned in a Facebook group or on Diagnostic Network or on IATN or any number of resources. And it just seems like the consensus is if our parts margin or our gross profit margins on parts should be at least high 40s, 50s, and then some shops are even bumping into the 60s. Whereas ours, and I don't know that anyone would really hold that back, but it's we're sitting at 36 and we have been for as long as I can remember. Okay, well, like what kind of work are we doing? But for the most part, an idea is to try to bump that up. Well, how do we do that? Well, I see these parts matrices. What do you think of this? Look, our system has a built-in one. We could change the numbers a little bit. Here's some examples. And, okay, let's try it. And they're scared to death the customer is going to wig out because now that alternator they were selling for $150, they are now selling for $225. And the customer doesn't even know. They don't care. How much is the job? What's wrong with my car? It needs an alternator. How much is it going to be, and when will it be done? Well, parts and labor, it's going to be $600, and it'll be done by the end of the day. Great. Go ahead. What's the warranty on it? Whatever. They don't even ask. Maybe just maybe they're going to look at the part when they get home and Google it, and then you have to have the spiel ready of, this is our profit streams. We stand behind the part. Yes, if something happens to it, we'll probably get a part at no cost, but probably not getting paid labor, or it's a fraction of our labor rate, blah, 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 whatever. The price is the price.
Yep.
I can buy a steak from a really nice butcher for a fraction of the cost of when Sean and I go to whatever steakhouse.
Yep.
So yeah, that's always my motivation is, one, I want to be able to do stuff that I enjoy doing, and I would like to make money doing it, and just keep improving everything. Like the next big thing is for us to get AC in the shop. I want us to be profitable enough, ethically profitable enough to put AC in the shop. That's the next big thing.
Okay.
And how are we going to do it? Well, it's fundamentals. I think we just do what we've been doing, but a little bit better, and we're going to get there. And it's digital vehicle inspections. If you're not doing that, that's a big one. It's almost a no-brainer now. especially if nobody else around you has it.
Right.
You're in an area where most people don't have DVI, and now you have it. That's a major marketing point, and it makes everybody's job easier.
Mm-hmm.
And so now sales on stuff that is generally easier go up, and you make more money. And then I guess having honest conversations, without, I know it gets kind of I don't know if he's really the word I want to use, but it can be a little uncomfortable for everybody to figure out, like, when are you crossing the line with management, with your ideas, but that I would think most really good shops, or shops that want to be good, are all open ears. They want to hear good ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, and if yours doesn't, that's the thing is like, if you're in a situation and you really feel like, I am not happy when I come here, no one else is happy, and this sucks to come in here every day and you're pissed off, everybody else is pissed off. Like, obviously, yeah, you got to look at yourself and what you're doing. That's number one. But if you aren't sure if it's your environment or not, take some time, make some effort to try to figure out what else is out there. When I was a younger technician, I'm thinking about a specific shop. I just assumed, because I was 19 years old and my boss told me, like, this is how it is, and it wasn't. That's not how it was. That's just the way he wanted to run his shop. And it was terrible and awful. And I could have been in a much better position earlier, but I didn't know. And, social media is an excellent thing for that, because you can get a taste of how other people are running their shops and how other shops are doing things. But you can reach out to people too, and you can go to the events like Vision and stuff like that, and then really get a feel for, like, how does your operation operate, and what's, does this type of thing happen in your shop, or how do you handle this situation, or does your boss let you, and you can really get a feel for what else is out there. And that's the thing, is like, sometimes you can't change the situation. If whoever the leader is in that position, that's the way they want to do things, and they're not going to listen to anything you have to say. Well, that's when it's time to, okay, let's start looking elsewhere and see what else is out there, because there might be, trying to turn this huge ship around is a big undertaking. If it's not your shop, it could be a lot easier just to hop over the other one that's already going the right direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're definitely not obligated to.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's just that darn fixer mentality I got,
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I think a lot of people do in this industry, and it might be your shop. That's the other thing. Maybe it is your shop, and okay, well, we got to figure this out.
You're in a very unique position to do that, then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even then, going back to the show, you're probably going to get some pushback when you try to change things. Especially if people have been doing things for a long time. Hey, this is just the way we do it. All right, that's what they said at the beginning of the show when he's trying to change stuff. He's like, we have a system, and their system was terrible. It was awful. And he's trying to, make things better. You're gonna get some pushback from new ideas and doing things differently, and it might, sting for a little bit, or might even cost you customers. That's one thing I'm kind of discovering as I'm growing with my business, is like trying to make my business the best that it can be and shooting for the goals that I have. That doesn't exactly align with all of the customers that I have acquired, right from the beginning. And we've had to part ways with a few of them because it just doesn't work out. But I can't be scared to do that, right? In the moment, we're losing a little bit of potential profit, but we can now take that time to focus on better clients that are going to align with our goals a little bit better. But that's a tough thing to do, especially if you're a business owner.
Yeah. It's really, from a psychological standpoint, it's called loss aversion. And to a degree, a slight offshoot of it is the sunk cost fallacy, where even business owners that are providing a service to somebody feel like they're almost investing in their clients. And therefore, because I've had this long-standing relationship that, when you really boil it down, isn't all that healthy for the business. And it might be, as management's fault because of it. But like, you're growing your business, right? Your labor rate's probably a little on the low side. You're pretty good about, that's a lot of money for that service. Kind of bump this down a little bit and bump the margin on these parts a little bit, and that'll make it more palatable. And now you've trained these clients to expect a certain price range. And now, as you've grown and you've gained more and more experience, and maybe just got sick and tired of being broke, got sick and tired. You're sick and tired of this. The AC machine went down again, and the new machine's $6,000. I can fix this machine for, $1,500, but it's now the third time I've had to fix this stupid thing. When's it going to break again? Whereas if you were profitable and you had kind of a multiple savings accounts, really, you're just like, it broke again? Yeah, I need a new AC machine. Just send it. What's the best one you got? Which one do you stand by the most? I don't care about the cost. No. What's the best one, and which one do you stand behind? Okay, send me one now. Granted, this summer that wouldn't have happened. They would have laughed at you, but but you've trained this customer to expect certain things that now doesn't produce what you need it to produce to do what you need to do, and fundamentally it's on you. You did it to yourself, but you have this idea that you've invested in this customer. Like, oh man, they've been my customer for like 10 years. I can't do this to them. You're not really doing it to them. You've done it to yourself. And now the best thing you can do for them is to try to re-educate them into why your prices are now different and what you can do to back that up. Like, hopefully now your warranty is that much better. Hopefully now maybe your waiting room is that much better, or it's easier to shuttle them around, or you're more willing to shuttle them around wherever they need to go because you're more able to. And you know what I mean? And then loss aversion, of course, is, oh God, I'm going to start losing customers. And inevitably what happens is a shop makes a change. A manager and owner makes a change. Whatever that is. They did a different parts matrix. They bumped the labor rate. If they can do shop supplies, they've altered that so shop supplies goes up. Whatever it is. And like within a week, they lose a customer over it. Like, I can't believe that's how much it is. How'd you get so expensive? And now they're just obsessing about losing that one customer that, if they stick with it in a few more weeks or months, they're going to be like, we didn't lose anything. That I don't miss them.
Yeah. That's the thing, is like, oh, okay, I don't have to spend all of this time dealing with this headache. Now, that was so worth whatever, income that particular client was bringing in. Once that headache is gone, once you're free of it, you're like, okay. And we had that with the shop recently, and I even had my 2 employees say to me, like, thank you, that is so awesome that we don't have to deal with that guy anymore. Yep. I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing. And I whatever, I hope he finds, the fit for him that's out there. I'm sure he'll figure something out. But
and it's a complex topic. Really, when we get to it, I'm kind of oversimplifying a lot of this. It is complex because we do have to provide value. There has to be value to what we're doing. However, you also have to be aware of, as best you can, and unbiased as you possibly can be, maybe you're already providing that value to justify the higher rates.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not, you can't just go bump up the rates and be like, okay, we're going to be good to go. Like, there's got to be some value associated with that. That's recognizable too. That a customer can recognize, like, okay, I'm paying you more, hopefully because they trust you. You've built up a rapport. But then also there's these other things that they can use to compare to another shop. And usually the easiest one's a warranty, right? A lot of shops still have 12 warranties, maybe 24 if you're 3-year 36, 4-year 48, 5-year 50, or 5-year 100,000, something like that. That separates you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a lot of shops don't do that.
It's a really good point that I don't think is at least put forth enough in the talks that I hear about raise your rates. Like you see that a lot just in general. Raise your rates, bring up your prices. You should be charging more. You know, like that's very common across a lot of the circles that we're in. But you don't always or don't very often hear the other side of it is you also need to match your service to what you're charging. And like you said, you might already be doing it, maybe.
Exactly.
But maybe not. Maybe not. And maybe you have really big aspirations and goals and the prices that you want to charge, the money you want to make. Okay, well, what are you doing as a unique or specialty service that is going to warrant the price that you're shooting for? And what would you need to do? What would your customer want too, right? Like maybe that's what you need to do is figure out, okay, what could I add on or provide for my customer? Like, right, we're fixing their cars, but like what in addition would a customer want that would warrant, you know, an extra price, or just what would they want in general? Like, what are you missing from the service that we provide to you, other shops provide to you, or that other mobile guys provide to you? And then, okay, well, how do I work this into what I'm doing? And if you're meeting like their wish list, whatever that might be, it's easy to raise your rate, especially if your competition isn't doing it too. Okay, so you're now doing something your competition's not, or nobody else is because they haven't, you know, taken the time to put that into place. Okay, well now name your price, and you're unique and you have a specialty service. But a lot of work goes into that. That's not just magic, snap your fingers. Like you got to put some effort into figuring that stuff out and putting it in place and trying and failing. But that's anyways, the I really like your point of like, you got to match your service to the prices you're charging.
Yeah. As best you can, try to be unbiased. It sucks. Trying being unbiased is really, really hard to do. And everybody has bias. But as best you can. And also, like, I can't stress that enough, like, and you said it too, is you might already justify those prices, you just haven't raised your rates. So that is absolutely a possibility. The other thing is you have to consider that you need to raise your rates because you need to increase your profits, but the exchange in value isn't good enough, that you aren't justifying your prices. You can't just say, like, we're here and we're doing this work, we deserve this. You got to back it up with something, you know. And it could be just, it would be hard to write in an employee manual, but if you've got really good front of house staff, like you got capable techs, they fix cars the right way, they do good work, they work, you know, efficiently and productively, but you've got a front of house, you know, whatever that is, service advisor, advisors, customer service reps, that are just really, really good people, or people persons, if you will. They're just really good with people. That is a ton of value.
Yep.
That is an insane amount of value when you have people that are legitimately good with people. People are going to come and pay a little extra because they can deal with whoever, you know. That,
especially nowadays, I think it's tougher and tougher to find in any service related industry good.
Yeah, they have to deal with John
service.
or Jane, and they love Jane. They love John. They're whatever it is. They're people that can adjust themselves based on the customer's, disc or big five, whatever personality traits. So somebody comes in that's a really alpha type, if we're talking like discs, I think it's hard reds, that they're very quick to the point, keep things short and concise, and not a lot of salesman-y stuff. And that red people, they really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you get somebody else that's a little more timid, little more uncomfortable, worrisome, that they can shift gears and be very reassuring, not blowing smoke up their tail either, just honest, reassuring. There's a ton of value in that. And if you don't have that, that can be free. That can be a free added service.
Sure.
But everybody's kind of got to be on the same page and willing to invest. And that's back to the barrier to, or the nature of the this episode topic, the inspiration of, I want to be better, and looking to people that are really, really good at their job. And maybe it's not behind the counter at an auto repair shop. Maybe they're really, really good at the dentist office, or really, really good this hostess at hostess at a restaurant, or at the airport working the counter. You're just like, oh my God, I'm listening to this person, and I got to be more like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I do try to look for inspiration everywhere.
It's a good idea to look at other industries and see how they manage things, how they do things, because you might get something that you never thought of, and no one, or very few people, apply it in the automotive world. And you're like, well, and maybe we could bring that into our world somehow or another.
Yeah. And, I know I make lots of movie references, but I do look to movies for inspiration. I do look to music for inspiration. We've talked about music before, and then it just can't be ignored. Like, I do spend a fair bit of time looking over forums and groups, social media groups, stuff like that. And there are people that I try to be more like. I want to be more like them. I want to be able to do what they do. And I probably will never be as good as they are at whatever it is they do really well. But the fact that I'm trying and I'm learning as much as I can already made me better than I was.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which in some cases isn't saying a whole hell of a lot, but it's true.
Yeah. Seeing somebody else do some really cool stuff, and you're like, man, okay, I wanna try and accomplish that. And yeah, it probably won't happen in the exact same way, because everybody has different, skills and talents and tendencies towards things. But yeah, just that effort of putting in that you probably wouldn't have, or maybe wouldn't have, all by yourself. If it was just you, and you're just like, well, I'm pretty good at this stuff, let's do it this way. Whereas you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you could accomplish this, or you could do it this way. And then now all of a sudden you're doing things differently. You're trying different things. You're trying to learn stuff. You're trying to improve yourself. That's where it's at. And yeah, I think that's definitely the parallel between what you see in those characters in that show and our world and automotive.
Just trying to deconstruct me. I think fundamentally, just my makeup, whatever that is, genetic or mental, is when it gets down to brass tacks, I want to know how stuff works. Even now, after 47 or 8 years on the planet, I'm still very, very much driven. And driven, I don't know if driven's the word. Like, I need to know how stuff works. I so very badly want to know how stuff works. And stuff could be cars, it could be people, it could be just the universe, which sounds, I know it sounds really pretentious, but it's true. I want to know as much as I can, and I would never imply that I really do understand the most complex things beyond maybe a conceptual. Yeah, I so badly do. So badly. But then after that, I think early on, I wanted to do what my dad was doing. Whatever, or parents, honestly, but just 5 years old, 4 years old, and they're out mowing, and it didn't matter if they were pushing or on the rider. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be out there. I wanted to show them I could do it. Or I dream up these scenarios where something happened where they couldn't mow. So now Matt would have to go do it.
Okay.
Same with driving. Like, I would watch them drive, and just in case something happened, I would know how to drive. And it's ridiculous ages. And I never, not saying I drove or even could, but I fundamentally knew what needed to be done to make the car go. Okay. And so there was always that drive to, if they could do it, I wanted to kind of be able to do it. And then going through school, there's a little bit of competition, but especially my 2-year, I just don't remember being in a lot of competition with stuff. I had an unfair advantage growing up on the farm, growing up in a farm implement dealer. I was way ahead of everybody just cause and that was not judgmental. I didn't look down on anyone. I knew it. It's an unfair comparison. You're learning how to change tires. I've been changing tires on freaking skid loaders. If you've ever had to do that. So car tires, please. And but going into the 3rd year with Alexandria, now the skill sets or skill levels of some of those people, now there was. And I'm not saying we're actively in competition, but I didn't want to get left behind. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to even be middle of the pack. I just kind of wanted to be somewhere in the top of the class, not saying student of the year, even just in the sentence, in the paragraph, and keep up. And then getting out of that, finding IATN, and then IATN chat, and that's where it's like Harvey Chan's, Randy Bernclaw's, Jim Kemper's, Matt Ragsdale's. This list could go on and on and on. I so badly wanted to be at their level. John Riggle, somewhere in the vicinity, just kind of know what they knew. Jim Wilson. I don't think I ever did, but the fact of trying to and befriending a few of them, namely Harvey, and then finding out how they gained a lot of that knowledge, just willing to sell them my soul and firstborn to know, don't tell me what you know, help me find the resources, because I don't know where to look. I have these books and I can Google stuff, but you're talking about this stuff, I don't even know where to go for this info. And them now being so kind as to say, SAE.org, the SAE documents, SAE books, patents, reading patents. Don't get too wrapped up in the patents, but you can pick up some strategies reading patents. And that was mind-blowing. That opened up a whole new world. And so that kind of drive, too, to maybe a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses, which I think I still have, because I'm friends with Keith Perkins, and because he has all these tools, I have to buy more tools. And then
yep.
Or Justin Morgan will call me up and say, hey, I just got this. And it's like, how much is that? To save my money.
Yeah. Oh, dude, the tools are the absolute worst. Yeah, I have very expensive friends when it comes to that.
Yeah, Tommy Oliva, right? Just Pedro
Yeah.
de la Torre, like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
call him up, like, hey, I'm trying to do this, whatever it is,
Yep.
programming or what, it doesn't matter what it is, and they'll be
Why
like,
don't
oh,
you
don't you
use your
have this?
blank?
Yeah, why don't you use this? I don't have that. What? Thought you had everything. I don't have that. Oh, you should get one.
Yeah. I don't know where you're gonna find one, but yeah, you should
that's
probably
the
get
other
one.
thing. Or have to put a fourth mortgage on the house. How did
Yeah.
you get yours? Oh, there was this team buy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it's been so cool to get to know everybody. Outside of my little island of where I'm at in Minnesota, and the absolutely huge percentage of what I've been able to accomplish. Right, I don't want to discount my own efforts, but it's so much based on all the other people that I've gotten to meet in this industry that have done and are doing so many really cool, awesome things, with intelligence and effort, and that has motivated me and inspired me. Like I said, like we're talking about, so much. I can't give enough credit to that. And so yeah, just want to keep doing it as much as I can, right? Like they say to surround yourself with people smarter than you. Like you
In my
want,
case,
you
that's
want to,
really easy to find.
you know,
people
I don't have too much trouble with that either. Like, you want to be the dumbest guy in the room, and I'm
I don't even
pretty good
want to
at
be.
that.
I just end up that.
That
I'm picking the wrong rooms if I want to be the smartest guy in the room.
but you end up like automatically taking on traits and qualities of those people that you spend the time with, right?
Yep.
That's obvious, a very common saying, but it's true. It's 100% true. So, and that's something, you're looking to change your situation. You don't like where you're at, what you're doing. Start by that. Start interacting with, befriending, talking with people who you are inspired by just by what they're doing. And again, that's, there's so many downsides to social media. Like, I took it off my phone and I love that choice that I made. But that's the cool thing about social media, is you can go see these people and exactly what they're doing with a video of their shop and be inspired by them with a free app on your phone. That's pretty damn cool. And it gives a lot more people the potential to improve themselves than if you go back 30 years ago for what was available to you at that point.
Yeah, and social media is kind of a double-edged sword.
Yep.
It's a double-edged sword, and a lot of times they're using very, very favorable lenses.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for
right?
sure.
They're only
For sure.
showing you what they want
Yeah.
you to see.
Very
It's
true.
pretty rare that there's like a Sean Tipping recording an episode of how much I effed up on this car. Right? Like,
I got so many of them, though.
there's more of those than there are the ones I really fix smart. So it's a volume thing. So
Yeah.
but you can get this. This happened even way back. Way back, but whatever. IATN, when IATN was like the place, that was the meeting ground for all of us. That was the main networking hub. That whatever techs, shop owners, they would perpetuate this idea of just Shangri-La. Just, it was a utopian freaking shop. The techs all made killer money and they fixed cars just like machine gun, right? Just you're driving by this shop and it just looked like a machine gun for cars that are going in one end and fired out the other end, and just, they could do no wrong. Shop owners living the life. And then if you just so happen to show up at their shop to visit, say hi, shake hands, bring donuts, it wasn't exactly that.
Mm.
Wasn't exactly what it was being sold as or marketed as or projected as.
Okay.
Same with techs, right? There'd be techs there,
Sure.
just they had it all together, diagnosed cars, and they had this loop they went on, and it was a 10-minute test drive, 12-minute test drive, and they diagnosed almost every vehicle on that test drive. They knew what was wrong with it, and they pulled in. They could tell by the scan tool, or they wouldn't even take a scan tool. What they just knew, or they scoped everything. Whatever the tactic was, they
Sure.
hit at 100%. Cars, it just wasn't hard. People make things too difficult. They didn't use scopes. They just use a meter. It's all they ever needed. And then you go to the shop, show up, say hi, want to take them out to lunch, see the operation. You wanted to get better. It's not necessarily true. What do you mean? This isn't what was marked. This isn't what was projected. This isn't what was displayed.
Right.
So just keep in mind sometimes when things look almost too good to be true, they probably are.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean you can't learn something from them.
Right.
And good. Like maybe they talk the talk. Didn't necessarily walk the walk, but the talk wasn't actually that bad. Like the talk was really good advice,
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the other thing is, like, I think when we're talking about being inspired by whatever the smartest of techs and or shop owners, I guess it doesn't matter, but my example will be technicians, is that they're going to have the most sophisticated way to go about diagnosing this car, and it's going to be really high level knowledge, high level equipment. And when you get some advice from them, it's the exact opposite. I'm not saying they dumbed it down, but they brought it down to a level of, like, you overlooked it. So, like, one example that comes to mind is a wheel speed sensor. I think it was on a Toyota, and it's a MR sensor.
Mm-hmm.
And one of these techs are asking, or a tech is asking how to test this, because they can't figure it out. And they're trying so hard to scope this wheel speed sensor, and it's like, well, what's going on? It's like, well, it's not showing up on the scan tool, and it sets a code, and is it a circuit code, or it's not? It's like a performance code. Okay, but it's not reading on the scan tool. No, what have you done? I stuck a sensor in it because I measured the resistance, and it was like 4 million ohms. It's like, well, it's an MR sensor, so that's probably about right. Did you measure the other side? No. Okay, so you would have found that's probably about what it's supposed to be, even though there's probably not really a specification for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but what do you do to scope them? Do I have to get one of those microamp probes, or what do I got to do? It's like, well, why don't you unplug the good one and jumper it over to the bad one, so that the good sensor and the good wheel is getting connected to the side that's not reporting, and then spin it and see if something happens. And it's like, oh crap, it does. It's like, okay, well, now the problem is from this point to this point. That's all you know, but you skipped over a whole lot of stuff. You didn't need top of the line scope. You didn't need some wham bam transducer like a microamp probe or milliamp probe. I think it's a microamp probe. And then it wasn't just this next level thing. It was like, well, I got a good one right over here, like 5 feet away. Why don't I use that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
Another, not quite the same, but it's like one of my very favorite stories ever. So Jim Wilson from Standard Motor Products, he used to have a website called flatrater.com, and now he has I just had it. I had to freaking say flatrater.com like an idiot.
I don't think I've.
It was right on the tip of my tongue, and then I decided to.
What happens if you go to flatrater.com? Oh. There is nothing.
Yeah, it's
What site was it? You said
flatrater.com, but now it's something.io. And I should know it.
Scanshare?
Scanshare.io. God dang.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I have used that one.
Thank you.
Oh.
Oh, darn it. So now he has a website called scanshare.io. That has, I think, a lot of the stuff on there and quite a bit more. If you're on Diagnostic Network, they link to it fairly often. Anyways, he was a GM dealership technician in California that I think all he really did was drivability and emissions. I don't think he really did anything else. Maybe some electrical work, but I don't think anything else. That's all he did. And California, of course, being the emission state that it is, and IM 240, stuff like that. And he was stellar at it. Just absolutely stellar at it. And he has this case study, which I don't know if he teaches it. Probably doesn't teach it anymore because it's now considered an older car, and people don't want to see case studies with older cars, even though older cars often provide the best issues that force us to take processes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I remember right, this thing would run terrible. And I think it would set like P0 336 for a crank sensor. And he probably stuffed more than 2 crank sensors at it. And just killing himself. I think it got engine control modules, harnesses. And this guy is not the part shotgun guy. That's not what he does. But this car was killing him. And he's got it up in the air. And he's sitting on a stool in front of his toolbox. And I think he's probably got his head buried in his hands thinking about this problem. Just, what am I going to do? Like, this shouldn't. For one, I'm a GM tech. All I work on is GM. I've worked on how many of these cars? I know this car. I know what I'm doing. I'm looking at all this data, and it's killing me. And I don't know if it's a break. I don't know if whatever the scenario is. But one of the engine guys, and I think it's like an older engine guy, who, you know, I think they have a kind of a rapport where they bust each other's balls a little bit. But the guy is walking by and he looks under the car and he's like, "That's not supposed to have a gasket," and just walks away. And Jim kind of perks up, like, not supposed to have a gasket. Pokes his hand under the or underneath the vehicle and looks up, and I think that, if I remember right, it was orange oil pan gasket. And so he runs the guy down. He's like, "What do you mean it's not supposed to have a gasket?" He's like, those don't use gaskets on there. You just RTV them. And then it's like the crank sensor goes through the oil pan in the front of the engine. So it's an air gap issue.
Spaced it out a little bit. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So they sends it down to heavy line, and they take the oil pan off and remove the gasket and RTV it the way it's supposed to be. Or I'm sure it's not technically RTV. It's probably like an anaerobic sealant of some sort. But yep, fix the car. I love that story. I love that story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I know doing mobile. So like I definitely, I don't know if fell in love with is the right term, but I really, really enjoyed the high level tests, right? The WPS pressure transducers and Pico multi-channel scopes and all that stuff is so cool. Absolutely love it. But doing mobile has kind of forced me to really know when I should pull out those tools and when, hey, maybe just pulling a spark plug and sticking a borescope down there is way easier.
100%.
And so like at times I'll actually avoid going out to the van and getting the Pico out or other tools, not just the Pico, but like specific tools that take some setup and take some doing. Like I'll be like, okay, is there anything else I can do before I go that extra mile with this diagnosis? And there's an argument to be made. You can charge more at that point, but when I'm trying to just knock them out, hey, I gotta get to my next one. I want to figure this thing out. What could I do? And a lot of the time, yeah, it does end up being something. The visual inspection is easier, or there's a very simple way to check for something. Or, yeah, in a lot of cases too, my shops just want to know, hey, is it an engine? Is there an engine problem? Yeah. Okay. All right. We're moving on to the next thing. Yep. So, looking at valve openings and all that stuff, that's cool. I do love it. But, yeah, when is it the right time to utilize stuff like that? And when is it just, okay, yep, borescope. Yep. There we go. Valve's bad. All right. See, let's move on. Yep.
That's what
I do love. Everybody should get one of the articulating end borescopes, though.
Yes.
I will say that and the ASE Wave U terminal are the most comments that I get when I'm in shops by people. But that borescope that you put that in there and it looks up at the valves, texture like, what? That's crazy, because it's a really clear picture too. I would definitely get one of those things. Those are badass.
Yeah, I think it's like Vividea.
Yep.
Has
the dudes at all the trade shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we use. There's like a newer one I want to get. That's, I think, Vividea.
Yeah. Yeah, he's always got like a smaller one with more control and stuff at every trade show. I gotta get another one too, actually.
Yeah, but the one I have, it's the Oasis Scientific. Looks just like the ATS one, but it's Oasis Scientific, and I don't know how that works out. It doesn't really matter. That's what it looks like, and I guess it's 180. It will look back up at the valves, and it's a pretty good picture. I would like it to be better. I think the newer one, I think I was talking to Tanner, there's a newer one that's better yet. Where they kind of struggle is when you start getting up really close.
Yeah.
And, you can adjust the brightness or whatever, the light, as much as you want. It just is not a very crisp picture, if you will. And you back up a ways, and then it looks pretty high def, but you get up close, and it kind of goes fuzzy.
Yep.
That some of the newer ones will do up close a lot better, and that's kind of what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I just want like a camera mounted to an ant that I can remote control and just put that down into the cylinder, and it'll crawl around, and we can look wherever we want.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to get on that, just mention that you got the idea from me. I don't need money.
Get your name on that patent somehow.
I was listening to this podcast. They had this real moron on there, and he was talking about diet, and he mentioned he was usually the dumbest person in the room, and I would agree with that. But he did have this nugget, and he mentioned a camera on an ant, so we came up with this. Don't remember his name. It's not important.
No, we just have to figure out how to train the ants, so that's another podcast.
Neuralink. A really small Neuralink.
All right, man. Well, I think we got it covered.
We got a lot covered.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Invite Matt on and end up talking about everything but what we set out to talk about.
Yeah, we're pretty good at that. That's most times. So cool. Well, thank you for spending some time with me this evening. I enjoy it as always. So
yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Always welcome.
Cool. Talk to you tomorrow.
I'm down.
All right. Oh, yeah.
Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping. I'll be your host once again for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on the show, Matt Fanslow is joining us once again.
Always great to hear from Matt. Make sure to check out his podcast, Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z, if you haven't. All kinds of great content on that show. But today, we're going to talk about a number of things because we always manage to derail the conversation. We start out talking about Matt talks about his dad and the health challenges he's been going through recently, and then we got into just health and well-being and diet overall, and things you can do to improve yourself in that aspect. But the main focus of the show today is based off of a TV show that Matt actually did an episode about on his podcast, and he had recommended to me that I ended up watching. Actually just recently finished the series. It's called The Bear. It's on Hulu. It's with the guy from Shameless is the main character. But anyways, we're going to discuss about the show and the character development and the character evolution. You see in the show a number of characters that start out maybe a real negative viewpoint of their career and the world and the people around them. And through the series, several different characters are inspired to improve their situation and improve themselves. And it's really cool. I definitely recommend the series. It's a great series. I don't watch a ton of TV anymore, but this was definitely enjoyable. But what we're going to discuss is in our world, in our careers, in the automotive world, and for technicians, what kinds of things inspire you to do better? Because I think there's a lot of parallels between the career position and the difference in the restaurant world, right? The bottom of the barrel to the top of the top. What's going to inspire you to make the transformation from one to another, or for your shop or the people around you? And that's what we really get into in this one. So it's a great conversation, and I think a really good thing to think about as well is like, why would I want to improve my situation and my skill set and things about me related to my career? What's the value in that, and what actually makes me want to do that? Or also, what could you be doing to inspire that in others? So that's what we're going to talk about. Always great to hear from Matt. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the episode.